items of concern. I was at their annual meeting. Stan, you were there, weren't you?
No,
you were not.
I'm not.
John was there.
No.
Anybody else there at their annual meeting? They, proposed two things I thought were very provocative. One, they talked about releasing beetles for purple loosestrife. And has anybody been on this board long enough to remember when Doug Dorn and the board discussed purple loosestrife and what to do about it? And at that time, we made the decision not to release beetles, because they are not indigenous to here, and the law, unintended consequences may well jump us and bite us in the butt there. I already talked to the chairman, LEPIA, and he said he did have some concerns about it, but quite frankly, until we get better proof, I think I'd like us to take an official position to be opposed to the releasing of beetles in the fight against purple loosestrife.
And would the DNR have to approve that anyway?
That is provable. Evidently, at least that's what they're telling me, but I think it's good if we would go on record. And I would so move that we convey to them that we've gone on record that lacking further proof, positive proof that it was not harming the environment, that we oppose them releasing beetles. I would second that. Okay. Any comments on that? Anybody remember that way back then? John, you were around. Yeah, were you there?
Yeah.
And that's, I remember that correctly, do I not?
Yeah.
Okay, and I would just further that along also is how many times in history have we, or in general, put something out there to combat something, and that consequence doesn't show up till 5, 6, 10 years down the road, and it's harder to get rid of that consequence than it was the original problem. And I would just suggest that we really, really look at that.
Right, I'm glad you said so. Any other questions or comments? We'll call for the motion. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Hearing none, motion carries. I will call the LVPIA, but I think we can leave it at call it, they would take a position. You don't have to write a letter or anything. Now, the other item is the Canada Goose Roundup. And I and just about everybody that was at the meeting, very excited when this was presented. And this is another thing that was presented earlier. And I remember this board saying, I'm afraid that some of the, well, maybe the women or some of the people that are more sensitive to the wildlife might get upset if we gather all the geese and have them hauled off the lake. But they made a great presentation, the LVPIA, or the gentleman from the division of the DNR, made a great presentation that the only geese that cause a problem on the lake are those geese that are born here. And if they're born here, they will always return here. They won't migrate. They're not, the migrating bird is not a problem, but the birds that are in the lake, and they're born on the lake, are what's come back and causing it. And I think there was unanimous. Let's get rid of those things. They're dirty, nasty animals.
I thought they were supposed to be on like the protected list though.
They are
Like you're not supposed to
federally
be in a
protected.
boat and go after them and.
They are federally protected, and the state of Wisconsin, the federal government, as I remember, the gentleman told us that this federal relegates, protection down to each state, and they're allowed to make their own rules. You can't harass them, that's for sure.
Yeah.
You know that. Mr. Schmidt, our friend Mr. Schmidt can prove that. It cost him about $250 to chase one with the waiver. And I was accused of it, so I would never do that. And in any event, it's serious here. We're being recorded. Anyway, it will take some money. And I'm to the group, and I said, I think the management district would be more than willing to fund the operation, but it would, should take as much as $5,000 to $6,000 or $7,000 to do this, because you gotta pay per goose to do it.
I think we still have to be careful because I know some people, remember when the chipmunk population really proved things? And we know how some people, it's the old fashioned walk the plank and they drop in the bucket and they
Try to
drown
swim.
themselves. And there are a lot of people that are against that. They're saying
I
it's
understand.
cruelty to, you know,
But if you'd seen the hands go up, I think there's a good 70 people on this lake, landowners out of 400 already
Yeah.
were at the meeting.
That's true, but I think, my own opinion is that I'm against the whole program, simply because I feel the people that profit by it would be the few people with the sort of problem, and they can donate to the situation. For us, as a management district, I think it's out of our element.
Really?
Yeah, to finance this.
Just-
Whether you're for it or against it, I think it's not quite our bailiwick here. And the Protective Association is willing to carry the ball on this, and I would let them do that. If we wanna encourage them, that's one thing, but to finance them, I question that. And I think, there are a lot of people that would be against it, more, they probably weren't there at the meeting, but they would be people, so. For
I
us
am,
to get into controversy when we don't have to, I would be against it.
anybody else comment? Well, needless to say, I'm quite in favor of it, I'm one of the people that have put up with it, but there's more than just 60 or 70 people on the lake, to me, that's a substantial number, and I think it ought to be, it is well within the purview of the management district, because, there's a lot of, ecological, problems with doing it on lawns, and, the feces are, they have germs, et cetera.
Can we send out a mailer to the lake residents and let's get that opinion. Let's find out right away instead of going back and forth the two, let's find out what.
We can send out one, it's not the cheapest thing in the world to do, but, I mean, it's not that expensive.
We could add it to our newsletter.
Or there you go, can you set up something online,
And
and
actually,
see it in
and that
the
goes out to
newsletter?
every one of our
Vote.
fine topic, fine point, I think by using the newsletter, we will, ask them to give us their opinion, we will bring it up, and, ask them whether they feel it is, something that we should pursue.
Or if they would donate to the
There was a
cause.
lovely woman who lived on some peninsula who wanted to pay for the whole thing, it was.
That was,
I don't know who that was.
no, the next point over from Minden, she's a, Illinois, used to be on TV down there, I can remember.
Oh, yeah.
Anyway.
Savage.
Oh.
Oh,
Is that who
okay.
Terry
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 Savage.
okay.
And
Well,
in any
and she
event,
wants to pay for the whole thing.
I think that's a great idea, and we will put something in the newsletter about it,
Excellent.
and ask for input, and see what response we get. All right, those are the two items. Anybody else want to add anything about the, LBTIA meeting? All right, hearing none, we'll move on. Kelmorian Land Trust, name of commitment. We have always made a commitment, and made a contribution to the management district. Chris, what do we normally give them?
I think it's $1,000, something like that, maybe it's 1,500.
I think
We
it's
budget for that.
And we do that because, well, excuse me, I take this back. No, this is, I got that confused with, the donation to the, seminary. We have been making a contribution on an annual basis. They did not, have time to come and ask us to renew our contribution. I think it's important that we support the land trust, mainly because they are the chief architects of supporting, St. Peter's, the seminary. They are doing extensive work on there on a regular basis, best defense against the seminary being sold out to, commercial interests. So, I would like to, they have requested, they didn't put it in writing, but I'll forward it, make a motion that we again make the same contribution we made last year, I believe that was $2,500.
Second that.
2,500?
$2,500.
Second.
All right, been moved to second, comments or questions? All right, all those in favor say aye. Aye. Those opposed? Motion carries. We're getting here along, we're gonna be done soon, dredging of the lake, I only brought it up because it was brought up, and then someone told me tonight, it happens on a couple places on the lake. But of course, you can get permission, from the DNR to dredge, and I can only assume that this person has it, I don't know about it, I didn't see it, but someone said they were doing it, so. If anybody knows anything that is being dredged illegally, then we should, write a letter or do something to try to do that, but no one else has any experience or know anything? We just move right on. Algae bloom in the lake. We talked about this, Bob Nutter talked about this, and he said, am I not right in our last report? Bob Nutter, John?
Yeah, that's a normal thing.
He made the comment he didn't know what caused it. Does that strike a bell with you?
I think, there's a number of causes, but I think his indication was that it's a normal thing that happens, usually coming out of streams and stuff like that. No big deal, happens all over. That's,
Alright.
when I saw it out there, I called him on it, and he
Yeah,
said,
you didn't call me though.
Didn't they
No.
say it was like a phenomenon that sometimes happens, cause.
Well, I don't propose we take any
he
action.
said, no big deal, it
I
happens.
brought it out because, it was also, a number of people talking about it at the LVPIA on the
Yeah.
side, because they'd seen it too.
You see it coming out of, the channel there by Dockside many times, and, comes down New Deal too, doesn't it, but it's,
If you're sure that,
now it's the blue-green algae, then we have a problem,
Yeah.
if that's the case.
It's good for people to be aware of it and to report it if.
Yeah.
You know.
all right, well, I was rattling these off, and so it's on the agenda, that if you think
Yeah.
not concerned, we'll move on. Item F, was meant to be two things. The first thing was, I do think we owe staff, we don't have it properly presented, so we cannot do it tonight. I think, in future meetings, we should have a cost of living adjustment, for, Stu and for Lisa. I think, with inflation being what it is, not giving them any changes is not really fair. So I, will ask to have that put on the agenda, for the next meeting. And the reason it is about the, commissioners stipend, I haven't put that on there to remind everybody. It's up to the commissioners to make that case, for themselves at the annual meeting, it's the only place that can be changed. So if someone thinks that should be done, I'm reminding them that they have to do it on time for the annual meeting to get it approved by the public. So, moving on, goals of management district, I think we should consider, having a goal meeting in the future. I don't see any purpose in doing it now, but I think it would be good that all of us as commissioners should, sit down and think about it. I'd like us to be a little more proactive and less reactive to the situations that are around. So, I'm gonna just leave it at that.